Hey, everybody, Kevin here again with another episode of the Real Estate Without Renters podcast. Thank you so much for listening to the show, I should say, and referring it to a friend. So if you're part of a meetup group, real estate investment club, going to a convention, whatever, do appreciate you mentioning and sharing the show with other people. That enables me to grow the show and bring more episodes to you. So do appreciate that. And also, if you wouldn't mind, hit that subscribe button. That helps me attract more listeners as well as sponsors, which I'm going to be adding to very shortly. So thanks again for doing that. Got another good episode for you today. In fact, I'm going to have a series of episodes coming to you over the next couple of weeks here. And these are all going to be instructors that are going to be at the REI Real Estate Investing Experience up in Columbia, South Carolina. So if you're up in that area and you want to attend a really good event, I'll be there myself, and there'll be a number of speakers that I'll have on the podcast over the next couple of weeks. It's going to be up in Columbia, South Carolina, as I said, July 29th and 30th. And you can go to the website, which is REUP, R-E-U-P, meetup.com. So it's REUP, meetup, all is one word, .com. And you can learn more about the event there. You'll see all the various speakers, all the topics that are going to be discussed there as well. And I got a promo code for you as a listener to the Real Estate Without Renters podcast show, and that is NOTES. So if you put in the promo code NOTES, you'll get 20% off the attendance price there. So do check that out if you're real estate and real estate note involved, because you've all heard me say numerous times that I believe the best prepared real estate investors are going to be the ones that understand the brick and mortar side of the business, the more traditional side of the business, but also the financial and creative side of the business, which is the note side of the business. And when you have that, I believe you're fully equipped for the industry, because we will go through cycles. We're in the middle of a potential change of real estate market coming up in the future. We've already seen interest rates go up. All these things affect not only traditional real estate, but the note industry. And certainly as an investor, you've got to understand what these changes are going to do. I've seen this happen over the years. Been doing this for over 30 years. And I'll tell you, through the cycles I've seen, the people that try to just stay and stick with one thing that worked, all of a sudden finds out that they're in a different marketplace, and what they were doing before isn't working, and they're unprepared. And you certainly don't want to be in that situation. So get yourself prepared. And that way, no matter which path you get into the real estate finance side of things, you'll be best prepared to do that. And Bobby's a good example of that. My guest today is Bobby Tindal. He's up in South Carolina, and he has a military background, retired from the Army, and he's a relatively new investor to real estate, but is just taking it on through a whole direct approach and taking a lot of massive action on it, and has done extremely well. And I'm glad to have him on the podcast. So Bobby, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate having me.
Yeah, no problem. So again, you've only been investing in real estate full time now since 2002, or sorry, 2020?
Yeah, we started our company REI Tactical in June of 2020 while I was still working a regular W-2 job as a clinician with the Hanger Clinic. I was an orthotist where we do orthopedic braces. Some of the other individuals in our office did prosthetic limbs, so most people are very familiar with what prosthetics are. But I had been in that field for almost 30 years and been a clinic manager, ran different departments through that timeline, had my own practice for 10 years. So I had a lot of employees and had some W-2 stuff going on. So I knew a lot about that side of the house and how to build business, how to manage people. But it was a few years prior to that where I realized I needed to get into real estate to help me find out a way to get away from that sort of atmosphere where you're working for someone else, someone's quantifying your time in relation to an hourly rate, and it gives you the ability to have a little more freedom. Right. I know I spent a lot of years coaching my kids through softball and volleyball and things like that, and I had to work around my work schedule, and so it was always that kind of a lifestyle where, you know, work had to be done so you could provide for your family, And then the family was always where you could fit them in.
Right. Trading time for dollars.
Yeah. So when I started, I literally felt like, I don't know if you ever had that anxiety feeling where you feel like you have to get something done, or the gloom and doom was kind of coming in on you because you're like, I'm just stuck. So I started by signing up for biggerpockets.com, getting on some different webinars, learning from some audiobooks, and I self-educated for probably 2 years, trying to figure out what what real estate really was, and kind of what direction
Were
I
you
wanted.
looking at alternative investments too alongside of real estate to decide what to do, or you had already seen something in real estate that was attractive to you?
Well, I had a practice that was very successful for 10 years. I knew how to do clinician work. I knew how to build that business, and I considered doing that again. But I knew that the challenges to get to that point, even though I could overcome them, I just didn't know if I wanted to be left with that as a result at the end, where I was just putting myself right back into the same situation. So real estate for me, when I knew that real estate is one of the biggest wealth generators out there, I was trying to figure out, well, which part of real estate, am I seller financing my way through riches, or am I flipping my way through houses, or am I wholesaling? And I started out wholesaling, simply by understanding the process, understanding A to B and B to C contracts and that kind of thing, finding out whether or not it's legal or not in different states. It's not. In different states, it's frowned upon. And that's just the nature of the environment, is understanding what you don't know.
Yeah. And just for my listeners who may not be familiar, you can wholesale notes. You can also wholesale real estate, and just explain a little bit what you mean by that.
Yeah. So if you take a property that's in a situation, like we found some properties that was in a foreclosure situation, and I called them up, and they said, yeah, we really have been trying to sell our house, but we don't really know what to do. And so of course I always want to be able to help people. And so at the time I was still learning. I didn't know 100% of what to do, but I knew I had an avenue where I could potentially help them.
Right.
And it wasn't, I didn't hire a coach yet at this point. So I was still kind of doing this from what I could decipher from. I mean, I read 12 books that year, and you can only learn so much, and you had to have somebody help hold your hand. But I finally was able to take the leap, put the property under contract for, I think, $62,000, which was his payoff. And he said he didn't want anything. He just wanted to be done. He'd already been through bankruptcy, and all that's been cleared up, but they definitely was going to auction the house. Like literally it was at the courthouse, and they pushed it back 1 month because of my contract. So they said, we'll give you 1 more month to get this contract done, and then we won't sell the house. So he needed some help getting out and moving. And so I actually went down there with my pickup truck, and we loaded up his stuff, and we took it to the dump, and we took it to other places where he needed to store it at. We got to once the contract was done, then I put it on, basically I put it on Marketplace, which was a big mistake, because all these people looking for places to rent were hitting me up. Yeah. But then I also put it on Craigslist, and I published it to some Facebook groups, local groups. And within 24 hours, I had it under contract for like 120,000.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm going to make a lot of money. And I'm like, I need to help this guy more. And I was scared because, when I was going through my education, it says you should make $5,000 to $15,000 on a wholesale deal. Anything else that you should do a double close. And so I'm sitting there thinking, well, I don't know how to do that. So I called my attorney and I said, how do I double close this thing? And he goes, yeah, we could do a double close. I'm like, cool. So I went down that road, and then I found out you had to pay for the house.
Right.
So you can transfer the house. And I was like, oh shit, I don't have any money. I was like, so I went back to the seller and I said, hey, I'll tell you what. I said, I'm going to give you $15,000 at the closing table to help you move on with your life. And he was like ecstatic. He was awesome. Yeah. So then I called the buyer and I said, hey, how about I give you a discount if you can close this thing within 2 weeks, and I'll just straight up assign my contract to you. He said, yeah, I'd love to do that. So I ended up doing the deal. I walked away with a $15,000 check, a huge educational lesson. Sure. The new buyer got in, renovated the property, made it beautiful. The seller moved away. They got money. Everybody was happy, and I knew this is what I wanted to do. Yeah. I wanted to help people, Yeah. And so I wholesaled 4 deals from June to December
Mhm.
as I was still working, and I gave them my 2-week notice November 1st.
Yeah.
And so I said,
Yeah, what a cool experience. I mean, it shows you there's so many different ways. A lot of people start that way in real estate where, I'm not ready to do my own deal yet, but I found something, now
Yeah.
where do I place it? So for those still wondering what wholesaling is, it's basically identifying a deal, getting that deal under contract, and then assigning that deal to somebody else. And that works in the paper side, it works in the real property side. And it's a nice way to get in. You're not taking unnecessary risk or risk you're
Yeah.
not comfortable with. And it worked out very well for you. And certainly, you were very generous to the seller too. But yeah, so that put you on the path, huh?
Well, I felt like I loved helping that person.
Yeah.
And every deal has a story. And I'm like, geez, this is crazy. This is something that I could wrap my mind and my lifestyle around, is helping people. And, if I can make money that would replace my W-2 income, then why not?
Right.
And as I went down that road, I'm like, I'm leaving a lot of money on the table for these buyers. Maybe if I could flip my own house, I could make, 50,000, 40,000, whatever. So I started talking to people about what I was doing, and they got really excited for me and said, you know what? I'll give you up to $300,000 to fund what you want to do in real estate. Just because they were excited for me, and they were buying, like they really wanted to be involved, but they didn't want to do work.
Right.
So they just wanted me to put their money to work.
Yeah.
So I bought 8 houses. Well, actually, I signed up for the coaching program to make sure I knew how to do seller finance, lease options, and everything, and to help me make sure my numbers were right. And then I closed 8 houses that first year in 2021. And
awesome.
I leveraged private money. I used hard money a lot. Basically refinancing some of the properties, as some of the rental properties we still hold today. Just gotta keep going down that road, like figuring my path out.
Yeah. Well, there's something about, which I go through this all the time. I've been an educator in the business for a long time too. And I just see, people, you can watch as you experience as many videos, read as many books, but I tell people all the time in my own training business, I say, look, as well as I know that I can train you in this business and teach you through video, live, whatever it is, part of this is this learning experience is you got to do a deal. I mean, you have to go through that experience, because that's when everything becomes very, very real. And once you start to do that and see, because it involves that human component more, versus just watching a video and going, oh yeah, that makes sense, I can do that. You start to realize, no, it's a people business that's involved around real estate. It's really what it is. The notes is really the same way. There's people behind all of this, and we've got to be able to communicate with those people, structure things, and create these win-win scenarios. And then you've got great opportunities, because at the end of the day, I think people like you and I that are creative in this business we're problem solvers.
Yeah, exactly.
Really, it is.
And that's what we tell everyone. We look for situations. We don't look for houses anymore. And when we can solve those situations, we can solve those problems, it becomes a win-win for the seller, the new buyer, ourselves, our contractors, our attorneys, our insurance agents. Everyone is involved, and we're creating this economy all around what we're doing as our lifestyle.
Right.
And we're controlling how much we want to work every single day, how little we want to work, who we interact with. No one controls anything more than ourselves now. And I just absolutely love it. And, wholesaling is a good way to get started. And it's a good way for some people now to work through some rough times. I know right now I have a few properties that I just wholesaled just because I haven't flipped them yet. I've got so many that I own. I'm just like, I'll just sell it to another investor, and I still made money.
Sure.
So
sure.
I mean, you just can't get so one-sided on it, and we have several lease option contracts. We have a few seller finance contracts. It gives us opportunity to involve ourselves with that particular piece of real estate that otherwise we wouldn't have had that opportunity, because we were creative in the structure of it.
So you went from wholesaling and then saw, hey, there's something here. And that's when you created REI Tactical. And
that
so
was
make this a real business. And
I wholesaled my first deal as an individual, and then I had my LLC formed.
Right.
And then I wholesaled 3 more that year. But then I knew I needed to get into flips too, and I just had to figure out that next piece to the puzzle.
Right.
and I wanted to hold rentals because I wanted passive income. So I needed to know how to flip it and then refinance it and so forth. And that was an evolution in my mindset as far as becoming a true investor, because a lot of people say, oh, I'm an investor, but they're really just flipping contracts, and they're not really investing money of their own sources to a deal. They're just flipping contracts. So I think early on in one of my teachings, it said that a wholesaler wasn't considered an investor. And I'm like, I want to be an investor.
Yeah. Wholesaling is more like a job when you think about it.
Yeah.
You're only as good as your next deal. You got paid on that one deal. Well, where's your next one? You better get some deals in the pipeline here with where the investor, whether it's properties like you're doing, which we'll get into more, or even what I do on the note side, you invest, now you're getting passive monthly income. That's coming in. Rentals, the same thing. I like your lease option thing. So it looks like to me, which again makes sense to everybody listening, when you're getting into this, the first couple of deals I think are really important, where you go through that process. So it's important to get focused, because there's so much within real estate and real estate notes. Where should you focus? Well, the focus should be, let's get some deals done, and then you'll start to expand upon that. And that's when you're starting to add new skills. You're building more muscles, in the industry. And it looks like you've done that with the renovations that you're doing now and then selling, but you're also looking to help people own homes by not just making them tenants, but also giving them an easy path into home ownership through the lease purchases. And how have those, I really like those lease purchases for people on both sides. We buy on my side, we buy notes that are already created once the people convert from tenants over to owners. But we also do deals now, actually up in Carolina, up in outside Spartanburg area, where we're buying them while they're under lease option. And then with that, conversion over there. So there's a nice pathway there. What got you on that, and how do you see that as helping people now and also into the future? Because it looks like, I could be wrong, it looks like to me that's a direction that you're looking at for the future.
Yeah. So like part of my growth was I had to have a good platform to work from, so I can understand what a deal is. Like, if I was able to analyze a deal and go, okay, how do I structure this as a wholesale, a purchase, a flip, a rental property, whatever. And I basically found REI Pro as the best CRM for me, because I was investing. I wasn't just wholesaling. I know a lot of people use PropStream and some other softwares out there, but REI Pro allows me to see the strategy part of it and understand I got multiple ways to buy, multiple ways to sell. And they have a feature in there called Deal Pro that allows you to actually do hypotheticals. You can say, if I wholesale to wholesale, this is what I can make. If I purchase to rent, this is what I'll make annually. If I purchase to sell, this is what I'll make on the flip. So understanding how to initially structure the purchase of the property and already have a predetermined pathway to what your exiting might be is how you can determine, does this property look like a lease option, purchase, or is it a lease option sale? And so, of course, legally, I had to go to my attorney and make sure that he can make it happen, because there's certain rules in certain states where you can't do a seller finance to a seller finance, or there's certain things that get in the way with that process. And so I just wanted to be clear from the perspective of where I was going, that I could make it happen if I made that offer to a seller or to a distressed situation. And to wholesaling,
there's a nice luxury to having what I call multiple outs.
Yes.
You're going into a deal, it's like, all right, I'm not going in with plan A is my only, that's my only thing. And if that doesn't work, I'm losing money. That's crazy. You got to go, I got 3 outs here. If this works, great, I'm making money. This works fine, I'm making money. This works fine. If I'm making money on all 3 of my outs,
it's a deal. Yeah. And the thing is, with a lease option, like, you might find a house that is completely turnkey, ready to go, doesn't need a lot of work, and you can lease it with the option to purchase it. And as long as you agree to those terms initially, and then you can even lease it with the option to purchase on the exit. So you can literally be in a sandwich option where you're in between the 2 agreements with party A and party B, and you're just making money through the rent roll or the down payment or the purchase price. You're structuring the agreement so that you take care of the landlording headaches from the seller by taking care of maybe the first $500 to $1,000 of repairs. and the tenant that you put in there is going to call you, not them.
Mhm.
You know, your agreement is with party A, and so they're happy because now they're renting to an LLC that has a track record, and they know they're going to get paid, and they don't have to chase the tenant down for a paycheck. You know, as a landlord may have those issues, or they don't have to worry about that leaky toilet because now you are covering that in your agreement. But
Right.
you have the option to buy it because you've analyzed the cash offer, you've analyzed what you can give them in rent, which you could even do a monthly credit in there where it's applied towards the purchase price.
Mhm.
Sometimes it doesn't make sense to put the monthly credit because you're trying to get that sweet deal.
Mhm.
But when you structure your exit strategy, you want your initial strategy to have a longer period or a longer term, say maybe 3 or 5 year term, so that you have the luxury of working a 1 to 2 or maybe a 3 year deal with your end buyer or your exit strategy. It could just be that where we just refinance them out and keep the property because it's cash flowing.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
and let me tell you real quickly about a deal I just did up in North Carolina. I don't know if you're familiar with the Lake Lure area.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Lake Lure is a highly sought after destination vacation place, beautiful area in the mountains.
Mhm.
And we had a property that came up on Zillow, and it was 300 and no, what was it? $450,000, 2,900 square foot, 4 bedroom, 3 bath log home, 6 acres. So immediately I'm like, I've been looking in that area. I've been intentionally marketing to that spot because I wanted to find something that I wanted to go to, and I wanted to do real estate there. And as I'm looking, I found this deal, and I'm like, shit, I'll call him. So I called him up, and I actually talked to it was a first sale by owner. I talked to the individual, and he was telling me that he owned a renovation company. He just hasn't renovated his own property, yada, yada, yada. And I said, well, I've already ran every number. I've ran up and down the sideways. I knew my strategy. I said, I can pay you off cash $450,000 for this house because it's got 6 acres and da da da.
Right.
He's like, really? Wow. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, he was excited because he got an all cash offer, and it's only been online for like 2 days.
Mhm.
And then he said, all right, we're going to wrap this up. I'll get you the agreements over and whatnot. And so I structured everything and went sending it away. And he called me back 2 days later, and he said, hey, have you ever heard of a lease option? I said, yeah, I've heard of a lease option. He said that a company called Blackstone
Oh,
reached
yeah.
out to him, and they said they would pay him $515,000 for this property. And I said, whoa, what are you talking about? I said,
Yeah.
your price was $450, and they're going to pay. Well, they're going to pay me on a lease option. So what they did is they said, we're going to give you $2,700 a month, zero down, but we're going to do that over a 2 year period at a purchase price of $450. But you'll keep cash flow coming in off of the rent, which will get you to the $515. And I'm like, okay, that's not a bad way to look at it, really, because you're painting that picture that you're going to give them more money. And that's all he really cared about, because he was just trying to sell his house.
Sure.
So as I said, well, I explained to him all that. And of course, after I did that, it built more rapport with him. And I said, listen, I'm coming up to Lake Lure like next week. Can I drive by and we could just sit, have a beer, talk, whatever? He goes, yeah, no problem. He said, I'm definitely selling to you. I don't want to sell this other, whatever this corporation is, because it sounded kind of sketchy. And I'm like, yeah, man. So we're just going to do this deal. We'll make it happen. I said, I'll make sure you're taken care of in the process. And plus, I found out he was a veteran. And so him and I connected on that aspect of trust and brotherhood and whatnot. So I go up there, and he brings out a Bud Light beer, hands it to me. We start talking, and he tells me all these things that he would fix in the property. And we're talking about like siding repairs and things like that. Well, he immediately knocked $100,000 off the purchase price just in that one visit up there. Wow. Because he felt like he wanted to give me a good deal.
Yeah.
And so we ended up closing on the property at the 350 mark.
Jeez.
And we did it through all of our resources, all private money, 100% private capital. And so now we own this 2,900 square foot log home with 6 acres in North Carolina that we closed on last month.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
But I solved this problem, dude. He moved to
he
moved to Georgia. He's got a new house down there. I mean, he's set up.
That's what we're saying. We're problem solvers, and this is still, real estate notes. It's a people business. There's no question about it. Just the product's real estate and real estate notes, but there's more deals come to you, I think, by building those relationships than anything else. And And that's great. And I'll be right back. Well, just want to make sure that you know who I'm talking to here. So I'm talking to Bobby Tindal. Bobby is going to be one of the instructors at the REUP meetup. So you can go to reupmeetup.com. Going to be up in Columbia, South Carolina, July 29th and 30th. I'll be there as well. You can check it out. And if you are interested in attending that, just use the promo code NOTES for 20% off there. But so Bobby, tell me about you're also doing seller financing and creating notes. And of course, I've got listeners that coming into this from the notes side, we're always looking for inventory of notes. So tell us how you started doing that, and if you hold those notes or you decide to sell those. Or
Yeah, so I think my first lease option was I'd already bought the house, renovated it, and I was just looking for an end buyer. That lease option contract was for a 2-year period to allow them to get their credit squared away so they could eventually purchase it out. But some of those things can go weird, like you can have tenants not pay, or they're non-performing on the lease agreement and things like that.
Sure.
You got to be equipped with quitclaim deeds and things like that to be able to take over the property and take control. On a seller finance, it's a little bit different because you're talking about foreclosing on it to be able to get back involved in the property so you can re-exit that, hopefully with a better plan. But it really comes down to making sure that you have a good legal team behind you to structure the notes so that they are solid and that they're looking ahead in case those issues come up. And then once you have those notes in hand, you now have that control and you're able to do what you want to with that particular piece of real estate. We just closed on a house here in town that the seller probably wouldn't have taken a cash offer even if they were desperate, because it was a nice house and it had a renter in there. The problem was the renter was paying very low rents and there was always a little bit of repair issues. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go in there and we're going to renovate the property, and we're going to improve the ability to get better cash flow off the property. So if we want to get that property renovated, we have to have a way to put money in that property to get our money back out of it. So a lease option doesn't always make sense because I'm putting money in something I don't physically own. I'm just renting to own it. I have equitable interest in it, but I don't actually own it. So I can put a little bit of money in a lease option, but if I'm going to go in and replace a roof or HVAC or put new flooring in it, so like I'd rather have it on a seller finance. And so I kind of want this is sort of a ninja communication trick. Is I already know my strategy of what I want to get to. I just got to make the seller understand my strategy on their perspective. Mm-hmm. So it's all about perspective, right? And so I submitted a lease option, a seller finance, and a cash offer to this seller. And I had a rapport with this person already. So when we talked about it, she said, now I like this part of this one. Tell me a little bit about this. And so I was able to break that down and understand what I was talking about to show her that this is what you're going to be signing. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to negotiate the seller finance on this property. We got it under contract for $140,000. The rents in the area are $1,200 to $1,500 a rent, and the house is pretty turnkey. I mean, it doesn't really need a lot of work. It's already got a new roof on it. It's already got a new HVAC. Plumbing's got a brand new septic system and everything tied in. So I need to get in there and trim some bushes and mow the grass, and I might go in there and change out some upgraded interior stuff like paint and maybe some appliances or something. But this house should sell for $210, $215 all day long. Mm-hmm. So if I go in there and make these improvements and put it on the market, I can make a quick sale, but I have it under a seller finance 30-year amortization with a 2-year balloon. So I have 2 years to basically figure out whether I want to refinance it or if I just want to purchase it and own it outright with cash or whatever the case may be. But the idea is I now control the real estate. I had zero money down. She gets I think it's $839 a month from me with the mortgage payment, and so it's a win-win for her because she got her purchase price. It's win-win for me because I control the real estate and now I have other options.
Yeah, so you're using the seller financing on the buy side as well. So what you described is what I would call you're doing an ABC offer, ABC close.
Yeah,
to a seller, just saying, hey, here's cash, here's discount price, whatever finance, and here's seller financing, and letting them pick. And once again, whichever one they pick, you pretty much it's going to work.
You're
out.
Okay, yeah, because you've already analyzed it.
And so that's great. And so you're buying on terms, if you will, on those, which does make sense. Are you selling on terms as well? Are you selling stuff seller financing, or are you just offering people lease options? Or
We actually are. Like we just closed on another one yesterday in downtown West Columbia that we plan on doing a seller finance option on the exit. And the main reason there is, an individual may not be able to go to a bank, but they need a house, they need a home, and they know what the market prices are. We're buying it well below market prices so that we can get involved with a discount. And so when you're understanding your strategy, I always look at a few things. I look at obviously the discount purchase price or the resale value. So therefore I can make the difference in what I bought it for and what I sell it for. Then I look at the cash flow formula, and of course interest that you can collect could be part of that as well. So no matter what, you're always looking at how long can you go, how quickly can you get your money, and when you're waiting for your money, what can you make in the meantime? And so I'm always open to even the properties that I've already flipped and I've refinanced as long-term rentals. We're now looking into possibly converting them to short-term or even just selling them, so we don't get stuck. I don't want to be stuck and think, here's this piece of real estate, I can only do one thing with it. And I don't like being in that situation. And I think the reason why someone might think that is they're like blinders, and they feel like, oh, I'm just not creative to figure it out,
Right.
And so I just did one. I did a fix and flip property. I got under a hard money loan, and I did some work with it. We had some issues with some contractors, and I just decided, you know what? The pressure of me sticking within a timeline for fixing and flipping and renovating and renting is kind of like bothering me. I said, why don't I just go find a private lender to just fund the whole thing in first position, and then re-extend that timeline, but make them money as well. And so we figured out, and we ended up doing basically a refinance through a private money lender. And it has to be a relationship building tool for me as well, because now they're making some money for other potential deals down the road that they might want to be in on. But what that did is it took the bank away from the equation. And now I have a creative way to exit that property. So I don't have to go through all these loopholes to get approvals to seller finance that property if I want to. So as soon as it's in a condition where I can seller finance it or lease option it, I can do that without my hands being tied.
Yeah. It's something empowering when you got the money behind you, without having to jump through the hoops and that sort of thing with the banks. Yeah, no question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So absolutely, man. If I get notes and things like that we want to unload on, I'd love to have a marketplace for that.
Yeah, that's what I'm definitely. Of course, we'll talk when we're up in Carolina, but maybe before then, because we're always looking for inventory, and some of the best inventory that we have is the same thing. When you've got somebody like yourself at REI Tactical, and you can go to REI as a real estate investment, reitactical.com. And check out Bobby and his wife Lisa, who own the company there, and they've got a team of people that they work with. But we love to work with somebody who's consistent and consistently creating notes on whatever basis that is. And what's great about it is if we understand who you're selling to, what the prices are, what our expectations are on our side that makes it work for our end, then you know how to create them in a way that you already know what the price is going to be. Once you create the note, you already know, well, I'll be able to sell this for X amount of money.
Yeah.
And, that's a good position to be in. And so my group of clients is an active base that's always looking for that, that other inventory, that
I think that's that hit here in the heart, because I feel as though if I knew your criteria, then I can add that to my list of my purchasing criteria.
Right.
Because you always make your money on the buy, right? So
yeah, because a lot of times all the people come to me and go, well, here's the note we created. I'm like, I got bad news for you. You created you created a note that's not the value that you think it's going to be. But if you did it like this, then then we got something there. So we've got a lot to talk about on that end. So hey, Bobby, thanks for being on. It was a pleasure to meet you. This is the first time we've met, and I look forward to seeing you up in Carolina. REITactical.com. You want to give out any other information if people want to reach out to you?
Well, I just want to
website, everything's there.
Yeah, I just want to first say thank you so much for extending the opportunity to at least have a voice and put out there what we do. I love talking about our team. I love talking about our accomplishments. I appreciate every seller, every buyer, every person involved with what we do on a regular basis to create the lifestyle for our family.
Yeah.
And yes, we're pushing out a whole bunch of new social media content here pretty soon. You're going to see a lot more involvement with my children being at these flips and things that we've been doing on the back end that we just don't publicize. So it's
Yeah.
really incredible to be part of something that's a lifestyle.
Yeah, we do it in the note business too. I tell my clients and prospective clients all the time, we're in the problem solving business, and we help people stay in their homes. You know,
Right.
we're a much better alternative to them than a bank. They're not just a number with us.
That's
You know,
right.
they're people, and because we can buy these things the way that we do it, whether it's real estate in your case and notes in my case, where we get them at a price where we do have some flexibility. We can work out some terms. We can work with you, work with us, open the communication,
Love it. Yep.
I can tell that's a big
Man.
part of
Thank
what
you
you
so
do.
much. Thank
You're
you.
most welcome. All right, so good to talk to you. And everybody, thanks for being on. And again, share the show if you would. And if you want to reach out to me, just shoot me an email. You're interested in the business, getting involved in notes. It's just Kevin at Kevin Shortle, or you can just go to kshortle@icloud.com. Shoot me an email. I'll send you a schedule. We can schedule a phone call and talk about the business and what we may be able to do. If you're interested in learning more about the real estate note side of the business, check out my book on Amazon, Real Estate Without Renters. You can look it up by that name or just my name. And it's a really good book. I think you'll enjoy it. It'll give you a good introduction to the business. And again, thanks for listening to the show, and look forward to talking to you all once again in the very near future.